Hello everybody and welcome to the shed. I just thought I'd share with you some of the projects I've been working on here at Teal Custom. And those of you who have been following my Facebook page will be well aware of Dave's big old P6 LTD. Now last week we ran into a few problems with this. Turns out the LTD is running pretty hot and it looks like it's been doing it for some time. So one thing led to another and now we've got the engine out of the car. Now the problem with this is actually porosity in the cylinder walls, and it's a pretty obscure thing. I've only seen this twice before in my entire mechanical career. But how did I come to this conclusion and how did we get here? First of all, as I was working on the car, I found out there was no thermostat. So that to me is a little bit of an alarm bell ringing, because if there's no thermostat, someone took it out for a reason. And usually people think if they remove the thermostat, well, the car's going to run cooler. Well, not actually the case, but it's common thought. So I put a thermostat in it and then I warmed the engine up, and as it was warming up, I always have the habit of just holding the top radiator hose, waiting for the thermostat to open and the warm water to run through so that I know the radiator's full. But as this was happening, I could feel a little trickle of bubbles just underneath my fingers. Every sort of few seconds, a few more bubbles had run through, and another alarm bell, because the bubbles are actually combustion leaking out of the engine and into the cooling system. The next thing was the car got to operating temperature really fast, and now that's another sign that we've got a problem. And the conclusive thing was I put it into gear, foot on the brake and loaded the engine up against the transmission, and suddenly Niagara Falls starts running out the top of the radiator. So that's where a heap of combustion's leaking into the cooling system. From that point it's a case you're just going to have to tear it apart and find the problem. Initially I'd thought maybe cracked head gasket problem, so I pulled the heads, and even though they needed work doing to them, they weren't the problem. Okay, so after I pulled the heads off and found not a lot wrong with them, the next examination was on the cylinder block, and I did all this while it was still in the car, and I cleaned up enough of the gasket material so I could get a straight edge across it and just check the block for being flat. Now as you can see, this feeler gauge just slides easily under the straight edge, and so there's actually a depression in the block this way, but there's also a depression back this way. So that meant the engine had to come out of the car and we have to reface the top of it. But as I was dismantling the engine to get the surfaces refaced, I found the problem in the cylinder. So I'll just flip it up and we'll see if we can get a close-up on that. If you look closely, on top of the arrows I've drawn in the cylinders, you'll see some little rust marks. Now these are the spots where the cylinder is actually porous and the combustion's escaping through the cylinder wall and into the cooling system. So what does this mean for Dave? Well, basically his engine block's no good. So we've put a call out, and a good friend of Dave's, Gluey, has come to the rescue with another 351 block. Now that one's a standard bore engine, so we're going to rebore that, build his engine back up and put it back in his car. One of the other big projects I've got on the go at the moment is Peter and Mary's EH Holden Special. Now, given it's a 54-year-old motor car, it's got a good amount of rust in it that we've been working on. And a lot of the parts we can't buy as reproduction. So I've been making a lot of this inner frame section for these doors. So you can see here that I've made corners for it, the bottom piece in here, the front corner in there, and it even had a rusted out section up the top here. But also, these edges down here were rusted away inside the skin. So I've made that by forming new pieces over the top of the original. Some of these pieces were folded, and these pieces in the corner were done on the P9 Pullmax. But this door, the mounting for the hinge had completely rusted away. So here's the new piece I've been making for it. I've salvaged part of the original just to save a bit of time there, but I flattened out the rusted original to make a pattern to form the new one from. So all I've got left to do now is finish the weld off, grind that up, and I've got a bit of shape to go in this bottom corner. It's got to get folded up, and that actually fits over this rib on the door here. And then it's a case of weld it back in there, and we've got a new support for the door hinge. So here's a panel that we're still yet to repair, and in the past it's been fiberglass through this top edge in here, and it's rusted all the way down the back edge of it where the inner panel's crimped in, and somebody's urethaned the back to seal it off and just filled it. So I'll wind up making a whole new piece to run down this back edge, a new bottom section to go across there, and a new top to go on there, and then we'll have a great fender. That's just a few of the ththings I've been working on here at Teal Custom. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.